Hey everyone! If you're in the market for the best mini ITX motherboards, you've come to the right place. Whether you're building a compact gaming rig or a small form factor PC, choosing the right motherboard is crucial. In this video, I've rounded up the top mini ITX motherboards for both AMD and Intel processors, covering options that fit various budgets and needs. Stick around to find the perfect board for your next build. All the details and prices are listed in the description below. Let's get started with the AMD Mini ITX motherboards first. Number 3. Gigabyte A620i-AX, best budget AMD Mini ITX motherboard. If you're looking for a cheaper option to enter into the AM5 experience, the A620 chipset is the one to go for. The A620 chipsets don't offer any room for CPU overclocking, but there's memory overclock present in the form of AMD Expo, which is what most users use anyway. The Gigabyte A620i-AX is a budget mini ITX motherboard that lets you enjoy the AM5 chipset and offers features that allow you to make the most out of it. When it comes to the design, it follows a gray and black theme with reasonable VRM and chipset heatsinks that also cover the M2 slot on the board. The heatsinks have a striped design in gray, along with Gigabyte branding on the bottom. That said, the board is definitely not going to win any design contests, but such things don't really matter much, especially in mini ITX boards, since most of it's covered by your components anyway. For memory, it uses a 2 DIMM slot configuration with a single locking mechanism at the top. For CPU power, there's an 8-pin EPS connector present at the top left corner, along with a header for your CPU fan. In terms of VRM design, the board uses a digital 5+2+1 phase configuration, which is expected from an entry-level motherboard. Even though Gigabyte marketing suggests that it can even handle a Ryzen 9 7950X, that's quite a long shot. While this board may be able to support a high-end processor like this, I wouldn't recommend using it for that. For power delivery, there are 55 amp power stages for the V-core, which should technically be enough for a processor like the Ryzen 7800 X3D. Looking at the performance metrics, this board has no Gen 5 slot. Both the PCIe by 16 and M2 are based on the PCIe Gen 4 technology, which is quite fair for a board in the $100 price range. However, I would have definitely liked to see more M2 slots, since there's only one available. Support for memory speed is good, with a max speed of 6400 MHz with a total capacity of 128 GB. This has become a common configuration that's present across all motherboards now. What's not common is the network connectivity here. Along with a Realtek 2.5 gigabit LAN chip, the Gigabyte A620i-AX also comes with built-in Wi-Fi support using a Realtek Wi-Fi 6E module. In terms of USB, you get a total of 11 ports, out of which 6 are USB 3.2 and the remaining 5 are USB 2.0. Considering the VRM design, the thermal efficiency is as good as can be expected. It certainly doesn't blow off the charts, and I really wouldn't recommend using a processor that draws a lot of power for this board, but does a fine job for entry-level processors, and you can, at max, push it to processors like Ryzen 7800X with a strong cooling implementation. Anything above that would be overkill for this board. In comparison, the Gigabyte B650i-AX performs even worse in thermals, even though it's a much more expensive motherboard. From a features standpoint, both the boards basically go head-to-head, with the B650i-AX slightly gaining an overhead with more USB ports, but nothing groundbreaking. To summarize, the Gigabyte A620i-AX is a board that will get you started with the AM5 chipset and experience, allowing you to make the most out of it with an adequate feature set and performance. To sum up, what I like is the great network connectivity and it's priced reasonably. On the downside, there's only one M2 slot and there's no Gen 5 support. Ratings: VRM design, 7.5 out of 10. Connectivity, 8.5 out of 10. Aesthetics, 8 out of 10. Features, 7.5 out of 10. Value for money, 8 out of 10. For an overall rating of 8 out of 10. Number 2. Asus ROG Strix X670EI Gaming Wi-Fi. Best Premium AMD Mini ITX Motherboard. Asus ROG Strix X670EI Gaming Wi-Fi is a motherboard that demonstrates impressive features in a compact Mini ITX form factor. The first thing to note is how Asus optimizes the available space, raising the VRM and M2 heatsinks. This smart design not only manages the thermal loads well, but also ensures that this compact board can host all the critical components without compromise. Around the CPU socket, you'll find ample space to install your desired CPU cooler, whether that's a hefty air cooler or an AIO liquid variant. The 2 memory DIMM slots are available here for DDR5 memory, and they support up to 6600 MHz, ensuring your PC will have access to high-speed memory. The motherboard features 2 M2 slots, following the design trend of its predecessor, the X570EI. One of these slots is capable of operating at the high-speed PCIe Gen 5.0, enabling faster data transfers. Along with this, the VRM design has been improved to a 10+2 configuration, a step up from the 8+2 setup seen in older boards. The X670EI Gaming Wi-Fi offers a PCIe Gen 5x16 slot. While it's the only PCIe slot available on this board, given the Mini ITX form factor, it's a fair trade-off. Asus makes up for the limited connectivity options inherent in a Mini ITX motherboard by providing the ROG FP2 card, offering extra SATA ports and headers. What really sets this motherboard apart is the addition of the ROG Strix Hive. This magnetic extension brings in more features, including a volume dial, debug LEDs, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 port, and a BIOS flashback button. Importantly, the Hive is equipped with 2 USB 4.0 ports, providing impressive 40 GB per second data transfer speeds. Price-wise, it's on the higher end, but considering the features and quality you're getting, it's a justified cost. Also, while the 2 DIMM slots might be limiting for some, they should be more than enough for most users who typically run with dual-channel memory. In conclusion, the Asus ROG Strix X670EI Gaming Wi-Fi strikes a great balance between offering high-end features, a reliable VRM setup, and a practical design in a compact form factor. For users looking for an X670 board that provides these qualities in a small form factor, this motherboard is the ideal option. Number 1. Gigabyte B650i Aorus Ultra, our top choice. The Gigabyte B650i Aorus Ultra is an exceptional Mini ITX board for AM5 processors, offering a great feature set at its small size factor. On top of that, its mid-range price point makes it stand out. From good connectivity options to a capable VRM configuration, this board surely ticks all of the important checkboxes along with some goodies. Starting off with the design. Right off the bat, you can tell the board is filled with heatsinks, which is a good sign since it's getting tougher by the day to keep up with the increasing power requirements of modern components. It comes in the typical matte black theme, along with some accents of silver on the heatsinks. The heatsinks are branded with Aorus, and the bottom heatsink covers both the M2 slot and the chipset. On the top left corner, you'll find an 8-pin EPS connector for the CPU. As for memory, the board uses a 2 DIMMs slot configuration, present with a locking mechanism on the top. The left DIMM slot is tightly packed with the bottom heatsink, so you'll need to make sure your RAM module is not too thick. Coming to power delivery and VRMs, the board has an 8+2 1-phase VRM design, along with a 105 amps power stages for the V-core. All of this is present on the 12-layer PCB design, and it really does perform well at high power draw for a Mini ITX motherboard. More on this later. Moving on to the performance, the board offers a single PCIe x 16 Gen 4 slot for your graphics card. I would have liked to see Gen 5 here, but this isn't really a deal breaker. An easy latch is present for the x 16 PCIe slot, making it easier to unmount your graphics card on this small board. Along with that, you get 3 M2 slots, all of which are also based on PCIe Gen 4. A good thing here is that all of these M2 slots are present under a thick heatsink, so you get ample cooling for all of your NVMe drives. The board is able to support max memory speeds of 6,400 MHz, supporting up to a total of 128 GB via the 2 DIMM slots. The numbers are also great when it comes to thermal performance. Under extensive workload and with a power rating of more than 200 watts, the board is able to maintain an acceptable temperature of 76 degrees Celsius. This is better than competitors like the MSI MPG B650i Edge Wi-Fi, which also falls behind when it comes to storage options, offering only 2 M2 slots compared to the 3 slots on this board. For connectivity, you're looking at a total of 14 USB ports, which are equally divided between the rear and the front. Out of the 7 on the back, 3 ports are USB 3.2 Gen 2, 2 being USB 3.2 Gen 1, and the last 2 are the older USB 2.0 ports. For the front, you get 4 USB 2.0 ports and a single USB 3.2 Gen 2 port, while the rest are based on USB 3.2 Gen 1. Finally, network performance is also great, with support of 2.5 gigabit Ethernet via the Intel network chip, along with built-in Wi-Fi 6E support that uses Realtek modules. In summary, the Gigabyte B650i Aorus Ultra is a board that has very little to no compromises, great thermal efficiency, and overall great connectivity options for a mini ITX board. To sum up, what I like are the great thermals, the great value for the price, and the solid storage options. On the downside, there's no Gen 5 support and no debug LEDs. Ratings: VRM design, 9 out of 10. Connectivity, 9 out of 10. Aesthetics, 9 out of 10. Features, 8.5 out of 10. Value for money, 9 out of 10. For an overall rating of 9 out of 10. Before moving to the Intel Mini ITX motherboards, it really helps us continue making more videos if you support us by just hitting the like button and subscribe, or even with a comment so that we know if you like it or if there's something we can do to improve next time. I promise it costs nothing, just a few seconds. So let's see now which are the top 3 Intel Mini ITX motherboards, starting with the best budget board. Number 3, Gigabyte B760i Aorus Pro, best budget Intel Mini ITX motherboard. If you're someone who cannot pay a premium price for a Mini ITX motherboard, and want more than what entry-level motherboards offer, the Gigabyte B760i Aorus Pro is the board for you. It has a nice set of features and supports the latest gen Intel processors, all of which come at an affordable price. This might sound too good to be true, but there's a catch. More on this later. First up, the design. There's a black and silver theme going across the board, which is more prominent on the thick heatsinks that occupy most of the area. The heatsinks have Aorus branding that flows from the VRM heatsink to the chipset, and M2 heatsink at the bottom, a subtle touch that's nice on the eyes. Below that is the PCIe x 16 expansion slot, which uses the standard durable armor for reinforcement. At the top, you'll find a single 8-pin connector for power supply to the processor, along with a 2 DIMM slot configuration to the right for memory. A plus point here is the addition of native RGB, which even more expensive motherboards seem to leave out in this form factor. All of this sits on a 10-layer PCB design. For VRMs, this board uses a digital 8+1+1 phase VRM configuration with 90 amps current per phase, which may not sound like a lot, but it's capable of handling even high-end processors like the Intel Core i9 13900K. That said, I wouldn't recommend performing any overclocking on this board, as that can lead to potential thermal trouble, which is never a pleasant experience. From a performance perspective, you get two M2 NVMe slots that are Gen 4. I would certainly have liked to see Gen 5 support here, at least for storage units. The same story goes for the PCIe by 16 slot, also based on Gen 4. This is still completely fine, but if you really want to future-proof a build, Gen 5 can become important. However, at this price range, it's a rare sight. Moving on to memory, this is where things might get a little unexpected. There's no support for DDR5, and the board is limited to DDR4 RAM modules only. As such, the board is able to support a maximum memory speed of 5,333 MHz with a total capacity of 64 GB. That said, there is a DDR5 variant of this motherboard available as well, but that costs around $50 more. The thermal efficiency is quite good, considering the 10-phase VRM configuration. The board is able to match the thermal performance of even full-sized ATX motherboards. This is amazing to see, since miniITX boards are more limited in functionality than full-sized boards. The board is able to maintain an average VRM temperature of around 86 degrees Celsius during an intensive Cinebench R23 stress test. Moving on to connectivity, you get plenty of USB ports. From a total of 12 ports, 8 are accessible on the rear through the I/O shield, while 4 are available for the front panel via internal headers. Out of the 8 on the back, there are only 2 USB 2.0 ports, while the rest are USB 3.2 Gen 2 and Gen 1. The front panel ports are, however, equally divided between USB 2.0 and USB 3.2. Lastly, networking is also good here, with a 2.5 GB LAN chip from Intel, along with a built-in Intel Killer Wi-Fi 6 module. Unfortunately, this isn't Wi-Fi 6E, which would have been a nice little boost. The Gigabyte B760i Aorus Pro offers better thermal efficiency than competitors like the Asus ROG Strix B760i Gaming Wi-Fi and MSI B760i Edge Wi-Fi. Not only that, it's also priced much lower than its competitors, which is a huge plus for a budget motherboard. In conclusion, the B760i Aorus Pro is a great entry-level motherboard that offers just the right set of features. If you're looking for DDR5 support, the motherboard has a separate variant that supports it, which is the only real concern. On top of that, a lower price point makes it more desirable on a budget build, while offering solid performance overall. To sum up, what I like is the lower price from competitors, there are plenty of USB ports, and the built-in RGB. On the downside, there's no DDR5 support. Ratings: VRM design, 8 out of 10. Connectivity, 9 out of 10. Aesthetics, 8.5 out of 10. Features, 8 out of 10. Value for money, 8 out of 10. For an overall rating of 8.5 out of 10. Number 2. Asus ROG Strix Z790i Gaming. Best Premium Intel Mini ITX Motherboard. The Asus ROG Strix Z790i Gaming is the premium Mini ITX board to go for if you can afford it. While it costs quite the buck, it's the only Mini ITX board that comes with PCIe Gen 5 support for both your storage and graphics card, along with ticking all of the other boxes that you'd expect from a premium motherboard. To begin with the design, it follows the traditional matte black theme on a high-quality PCB. The VRM heatsink has vent lines that allow for maximum airflow to circulate, which is further complemented by 2 fans under the heatsink. On the bottom, you'll find a partial ROG logo that covers the M2 and chipset heatsink, along with a nice sheen that really makes it stand out. Below the chipset heatsink is the reinforced PCIe by 16 slot that Asus calls a safe slot, along with 2 DIMM slot configurations in the top right for memory. For CPU power, you get to see the typical 8-pin connector in the top left corner. If you're looking for RGB, you'll have to bring your own since the board doesn't come with any native RGB, which is a surprise given the premium price. Looking at the VRMs, you get a 12-phase configuration in a 10+1+1 design, out of which 10 are dedicated to V-Core. The total 1050 amps current is more than enough to power even flagship processors from Intel, including the i9-14900K. On top of that, there's plenty of room for overclocking as well, should you want to push your processor even further. The performance standpoint of this board is actually insane. The board offers a single PCIe by 16 Gen 5 expansion slot for your graphics card, along with two M2 slots for NVMe storage. Out of the two, one is based on PCIe Gen 5, while the other uses Gen 4. Additionally, there are two SATA headers available if you want extra storage for your PC. Moving on to the memory specifications, the board supports a max speed of 7600 MHz with a total capacity of 96 GB. The total capacity here is a bit of a surprise since most boards are able to support 128 GB of memory via their 2 DIMM slot configuration. What's unique about the ROG Strix Z790i Gaming is the implementation of the audio solution. This has been moved to a separate external device that Asus calls the ROG Strix Hive, and they claim it brings the essential I/O control within arm's reach. This device uses the typical Realtek audio codec, along with some additional USB ports, and a bunch of control buttons like a BIOS flashback button, AI overclock button, and more. The board also doesn't lag behind in thermal efficiency and performance. It's able to handle high workloads with quite ease, maintaining a low temperature of around 60 degrees Celsius under the AID A64 stress test. Connectivity is also great, with a total of 12 USB ports, out of which 9 are available via the rear I/O shield and 3 for the front panel. This division might disappoint some if you're looking for more options in the front panel, but honestly, this really does the job quite well. 2 of the 9 USB ports on the back are USB 2.0 with 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, and the rest USB 3.2. On the other hand, all of the front panel ports are USB 3.2, which is nice to see considering the low availability. Now, for network connectivity, you get the typical 2.5 gigabit Ethernet chip and Wi-Fi 6E module that comes with antennas in the box. The ROG Strix Z790i Gaming completely blows its competition from other manufacturers like the MSI MPG Z790i Edge Wi-Fi and Gigabyte Z790i RS Ultra, offering superior storage options with PCIe Gen 5 support, along with better USB connectivity and even thermals. All in all, while it comes at a premium price, this board does offer the best set of features that you're going to get out of any Mini ITX board. To sum up, what I like is the PCIe Gen 5 support for storage and GPU, the excellent thermals, and the great USB connectivity. On the downside, there's no built-in RGB. Ratings: VRM design, 9 out of 10. Connectivity, 9 out of 10. Aesthetics, 9 out of 10. Features, 9 out of 10. Value for money, 8 out of 10. For an overall rating of 9 out of 10. Number 1. ASRock Phantom Gaming Intel Z790i. Our top choice. The ASRock Phantom Gaming Intel Z790i is among the best Mini ITX motherboards that you can buy. It's based on the Z790 chipset, and it made its entry into the market quite late, with support for Intel's 12th, 13th, and 14th generations. The board offers great memory support, along with sufficient storage options and an overall fast networking solution. Overall, it really does provide a great experience, so let's jump into it. Looking into the design, it sits on top of an 8-layer PCB design with a matte black finish. At first sight, it comes off as another plain black motherboard, but what's unique here is the VRM heatsinks. They're connected through a heat pipe which is actively cooled. The heatsinks have the standard Phantom Gaming branding on them, and there's a total of 3 if you count the heat pipe connected heatsinks as separate. Glancing at the top, you get a standard 8-pin power connector for the processor in the top left corner, rated at 12 volts. On the right side, there are 2 DIMM slots for your memory with locking mechanisms on both ends. There's no RGB, so if you want to add, you'll need to install your own via the headers. For thermal design, the board uses an excellent 14+1+1 phase VRM design, and it actually does an excellent job with the 14 phases dedicated to V-Core. There's a total of 1,540 amps power stages, which is the most you'll likely see in a motherboard of this size. This allows the board to handle even high-end flagship Intel processors quite easily, with plenty of room for overclocking as well. Moving on, it offers a single PCIe x 16 Gen 5 slot for your GPU. Gen 5 support is quite nice to see here, and it's something most motherboard manufacturers compromise on. Along with that, you get 2 M2 slots, but they're both based on Gen 4 instead of Gen 5. You also get 3 additional SATA headers that support speeds of up to 6 GB per second. Memory performance and overclocking are where this board really shines, with support for max speeds of 8600 MHz, which is absolutely insane. With the 2 DIMM slots, you get a max capacity of 128 GB. Moving on to the thermal efficiency and performance, it's no surprise that the Phantom Gaming Z790i is able to remain cool even under intensive workload and high power draw. You'll be able to install any flagship processor on this board without any thermal trouble thanks to the extensive VRM design employed on the board. Where this board lacks a little is USB ports and connectivity. There are a total of 10 USB ports, out of which 6 are present on the rear and 4 are accessible through the internal headers. Fortunately, there are no USB 2.0 ports on the back, with 2 of the 6 based on USB 3.2 Gen 2, and the remaining using the 3.2 Gen 1 technology. On the front, you get 3 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports and a single USB 2.0 port. For network connectivity, the board offers solid options in a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet chip from Realtek, along with a built-in Wi-Fi 6E module. When comparing it to competitors like the Asus ROG Strix Z790i Gaming Wi-Fi, the ASRock Phantom Gaming variant offers superior memory performance and storage options, while being significantly cheaper than the former. Not only that, the VRM configuration in the ASRock Phantom Gaming Z790i is also better, as the Asus variant only offers a 10+1+1 phase configuration. All in all, the ASRock Phantom Gaming Z790i is an amazing miniITX motherboard and is able to offer superior performance and thermals than its rivals that are priced much higher. Great thermals, good storage, and overall excellent performance are what make this board stand out. To sum up, what I like is the PCIe Gen 5 support, the amazing price-to-performance ratio, and the excellent thermal performance. On the downside, there's no native RGB and no Gen 5 for storage. Ratings: VRM design, 9 out of 10. Connectivity, 8.5 out of 10. Aesthetics, 8.5 out of 10. Features, 8.5 out of 10. Value for money, 9 out of 10. For an overall rating of 8.5 out of 10. So there you have it, the best miniITX motherboards for both AMD and Intel builds. I hope this guide helps you choose the perfect board for your compact PC project. If you're serious about maximizing your gaming experience, or building the ultimate system, there's plenty more to discover. Check out my other videos packed with suggestions and reviews,